Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very special, first ever, I believe, Christmas episode of Talking Ass. Joining me are my jingle balls themselves. Would you like to introduce yourselves, gentlemen? Let's start with you, Tony. Say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. I am Tony. Happy to be here on this special Christmas edition of Talking to Ass. Kelly?
And hi, everyone. I'm Kelly. Also excited to be here, and also would actually prefer to introduce myself than you, Mike, based on the introduction. So thanks for that. Also glad to be here on the holiday edition.
Excellent. It's a really special thing that the three of us are sharing with the world right now, because not only do we get our first holiday episode of The Assistant, but now Talking to Ass brings the first Talking Ass holiday episode. So I feel like it's really come full circle. And before we even get into that, did you guys have a great holiday?
I did. It. I got a tree. It's behind me here. A Star Wars Christmas tree. So that makes a. It's hard not to have a good Christmas when you get a Star Wars Christmas tree.
Can't beat that. Tony, what about you?
It was as good as it could have been. Unfortunately, we had a death in the family a week
Oh,
ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it was my brother-in-law's father, the guy who lives a couple of doors down. Um, and the funeral was on Monday, and my brother-in-law was actually supposed to host Christmas, and I told my wife, I was like, he can't do Christmas. His father just passed away. So it was a little bit of a scramble, but we ended up having everybody that he was going to have at his house over to my house, and there was some people that didn't even know they were coming to my house. They just found out at the last minute that they were coming to my house, which wasn't too big of a stretch because they just had to skip a house and come on over. But it was good. It was good. Um, all things all things considered.
That's good, though. You had a nice big family get together.
Yeah, we had about 25 people over here.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah, it was ripping and roaring. And then right in the middle of it, there was an extra Christmas gift, as far as I'm concerned, a Talking Ass episode. So, I'm sorry, an assistant episode because this is the Talking Ass episode.
Correct. Yeah, and I was going to say that really, for me, it's not about seeing the joy on children's faces or hearing their laughter and stuff like that. It's about watching Dylan. That's what the holiday means to me. Now, what did you guys think of this latest episode of The Assistant?
It was probably the darkest, and not from a lighting perspective, but more from a content perspective. I'd say this is the darkest assistant to date.
Tony?
I would agree. Um, Dylan was definitely going with a Grinch theme to that episode um, because even the title about him being a mean one has, talks back to Grinch. But I think an alternate title to the episode could have actually been Kaboom um, because the whole plot of the episode is sabotaging a Christmas tree to actually, and to Kelly's point, um, he's trying to kill someone. So hence, very, very dark. And I think it was well done. Well done. And from dark, from a lighting perspective, at the right time at the beginning. Um, so we should start keeping track of how many crimes Dylan actually commits during one of his episodes, because in this one he had car theft, and I believe it would be murder one.
Well, just to interrupt with that,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but Dylan is located in Baltimore, right?
in the area, yes.
Okay. Are we sure that murder's a crime there? I'm not familiar with their local laws.
I believe it is.
You think so? Kelly, are you familiar at all?
I think once they get to a certain number, then it's okay. But I'm not as familiar with the Baltimore legislation.
So it's like a quota that they have to hit. Once they reach their quota, everybody else can slide.
Yeah, it's like a people season sort of thing.
That makes sense. And we are pretty late in the year, so maybe, just maybe, he gets in under the wire with that then. So really what he's looking at is the car theft.
And trespassing.
Yeah.
And jaywalking.
And vandalism.
Jaywalking's a pretty serious crime, though. If there's any kids watching this right now, don't do it. It's just not worth it. You want to murder somebody? Okay. If you're in Baltimore and the quota's reached, who am I to judge? But jaywalking, can't stand for that.
And there was a potential of a road rage incident also. Looked like he was in a residential neighborhood and that car just comes whizzing by. So it's multiple crimes and multiple perpetrators, I would say.
Well, since, as you guys both brought up, it's kind of this episode in particular, but maybe it's something that's the arc of this season. It seems like we're going in a little bit more of a serious, darker direction. How do you guys feel about that?
I would say that it's almost a complete 180-degree turn from the first season. It seemed like the first season had a sense of whimsy to it, and so far, the first two episodes of the second season have definitely been darker and more serious, and there is no whimsy so far, except for the sonic screwdriver, which is the only whimsical item.
Right. And what about you, Kelly? Are we seeing the shift from Tim Burton to Christopher Nolan here?
I think so. Although I am holding out hope that musical theater, which I think there's a certain amount of Dylan's background that would lend itself to that we might get into some show-stopping tunes before things are said and done.
I would definitely love to see an all-musical episode, or maybe a multi-episode arc of The Assistant with Dylan singing.
Yeah, or operatic even. I think just kind of more traditional musical theater would be great, but an operatic episode or two could be good.
That would just be breathtaking. What do you think, Tony?
I'm just thinking of the potential for product placement and the potential for marketing, where there could also be, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the Follow the Bouncing Ball when you could sing along with the song in the movie theater. So a karaoke version do a throwback, and instead of having the words Star Wars across the screen, you'd have the Follow the Bouncing Ball thing going on, which would be a great retro look, I think, for karaoke.
That would really be excellent. I would love to see Follow the Ass.
It's missing something.
Be a great song.
It would.
Instead of a ball, it could be a wiggling ass, so then it would be Follow the Wiggling Ass.
There you go.
Or a talking ass, obviously.
Well, I think, though, we're definitely hitting on something here. What type of music do you think would best accompany this season of The Assistant? Since we are going in a little bit of a darker direction, it seems.
See, I'm thinking Wagner, so I'm thinking more of a classical bent. But it could also be a polka.
Could be kind of a Cure. I think I could see kind of a Cure kind of feel to it. Um, Kenny G, which is some of the darkest music ever.
There was a point in my life when I was into really, really hard drugs and I was depressed and suicidal, and all I could listen to was Kenny G's Christmas album. So I associate that with really dark points in my life. I'm not even sure, like as we discussed, this season does seem to be going a little bit darker, but I'm not sure if he's going to go that far. Do you guys think that there should be a limit to how dark he goes?
I'll let Kelly answer that first, and then I'll give you my opinion.
Well, he's promised us 2 murders in today's episode on publicly available video channels pointing to houses of one of the people he's going to murder. So pretty dark. Plus the gore factor's gone up when you saw the significant injury he received in a battle earlier, and then he couldn't even tell us what he did to the other one.
Now, do you think that was CGI, or did he go to more traditional effects with that? Is that
I'm not
latex?
sure how he could have been with that severe of an injury. I'm not sure how he could have been filming. So I think it had to be CGI.
Makes sense.
Wow, so we're talking about a significant makeup budget also.
I think that Gatorade sponsorship has rolled a lot of money in.
I'm just going to say one thing, though, like just to interject really quick. I hope if he does go like really over the top with blood and gore for these murders, I don't want to see CGI blood. Give us a little bit of practical blood.
Yeah, based on the scope of his production, where it's, for the most part, he is a one-man show, I think it might be a little bit too much to ask for real blood, because it's just so much easier to throw in some CGI gore.
I wasn't necessarily speaking of real blood, but now that you brought that up,
well,
it could work. I mean, grittier tone that he's going for.
Real blood as not meaning actual, human hemoglobin and stuff, but an actual, blood substitute like ketchup. That it would probably be easier to add the blood in post-production.
You know what could be cool? If he worked in some way, like some kind of real life scenario, like to really commit to the character. Like let's just say, I'm just throwing this one out as an example. I'm not saying this would fit the character or fit the arc, but let's just say, for example, his character in the show wanted to get a tattoo, and Dylan went and actually got that tattoo and made that an episode. Like him in the tattoo parlor really being tattooed. Not that, though, like something, that fits with the show better, but take that step to where you really just blur the line between what's the scripted show and what's the reality.
Tattoo, shaving his head,
piercings, dyeing his hair, yeah.
Piercings is good. A nose ring.
Now, are we talking nostril or septum?
Septum.
Makes sense.
I would think, given the character's history, I'd say septum.
Well, there are 2 Dylans. Am I not correct? There's the Dylan that's living at home, and then there's the assistant Dylan in the show, because he's back at home. So whatever he did would also have to be able to fit in with his family life. So I'm thinking a tattoo would be a lot easier to pull off than some kind of odd piercing or scarring or branding could also.
Branding. There's a good idea.
And what's good about branding too is that's something that sticking with the one man show thing, like he could do that himself. Just bend a wire hanger into a design that he likes, heat it up, and brand himself.
Well, what I was wondering was whether or not we were going to see the aftermath of the last episodes. If we were going to see the results. Because he did booby trap the Christmas tree outside in front of Director Black's house with the sonic screwdriver.
Yeah, which I was surprised was a lot less complicated an activity than I would have thought.
So, all right, you guys are way more familiar with the Hooniverse than I am.
Oh, Tony is, especially current Hooniverse, definitely.
And so, what is the scope of the powers of the sonic screwdriver?
It can do anything that you need it to do at any given time. For the most part, I mean, you're not going to be able to use it to lift up a 20-ton boulder, but it can manipulate electronics. It can do various things.
So it would be capable of what we're seeing here then?
Yeah, especially manipulating electronics. Give me a second, guys.
Sure.
I think Tony's a little emotional about this episode.
I think we all are. I think it's something that really affected us, and it was something that hit over the holidays when emotions are running a little bit higher to begin with.
Yep. And you're drinking a lot.
Yeah.
So
I mean, more than usual. I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, at a higher level. Yeah.
Right. Just drinking to a point where most people would probably die.
Oh, teaser.
What was that?
You teased us there a little bit. We thought you were back.
I was. I just had to close. There was a disturbance in the force, and I had to close the door. Yeah. So as Kelly said earlier, we're going to get another one of these, and I was just wondering whether or not we were going to see again the results and how they were going to do that.
They may not want to blow the CGI budget on that arm scar. They might want to save some for Director Black's house, but we'll see. It's something to look for. I mean, this is quite the cliffhanger because we're going to see, and then there's somebody else that he's going after who's going to be harder to get than Director Black.
I think he could fake a newspaper headline. A little photoshopping of a newspaper and just do a headline, dies tragically in a Christmas tree explosion.
Which is fairly common. So that's one of those things that, you could pass off as an accident.
I guess we're going to have to just see.
Well, is there anything else you guys would like to add to this?
Just happy holidays to all of the Talk to Ass and assistant fans that are out there, and we'll keep doing these as long as Dylan keeps doing his.
I do have one question because the closed captioning feature was not available with this particular video. Did either one of you happen to catch the name of his next victim?
I can't recollect it. I heard it.
Because to me it sounded like the president of Calgary.
It was President Calgary, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Who I'm not familiar with at all. There's no backstory here whatsoever that I'm aware of.
Tony is the resident Hooniverse expert. Is that something that's ringing a bell?
Nothing. it just because I know a little bit about geography, and I know Calgary is a place in Canada, and I didn't think Calgary had a president. So I was trying
Perhaps,
to.
though, we're going to see a location shoot in Canada.
It's possible.
That would be interesting because Dylan does do a lot of shows with our Canadian friend Bronwyn.
But if he's going to do an episode that's supposed to take place in Canada, wouldn't it just be apropos for him to film it at home and just tell people it was Canada? You know,
No.
the way that they're filming all those movies in Canada now and telling us it's the United States, and we know it's not because the
It works
streets are
that
way
way,
too
but it
clean.
doesn't work in reverse.
Yeah, it's like AC/DC kind of thing.
Yeah, I would love to see Dylan go to Canada.
Yeah, and they have, and I believe their healthcare is free, so he could take a lot more risks in the filming because he's covered.
I just think an on-location shoot in Canada with Bronwyn in it, that would be pretty epic.
It would be.
Yeah, especially if Bronwyn didn't know she was going to be on.
Even better.
He just showed up one day, started pounding on the door.
It would be
Plus,
funny.
think about, he could do a Dylan Knows episode with her there. He could do an episode of The Assistant.
He could do an episode of Dylan Knows, and then he could kill her at the end and just cut that out, and that would be the murder.
So you're suggesting then that she is the president?
The sacrificial
Canadian.
Canadian.
A long-held tradition.
That's right. Very polite people, the Canadians. She would be a stand-in for President Calgary, I guess.
Yes.
Well, is there anything else you guys would like to add?
Dylan's
Well,
a bastard.
Well, if that's it then, I hope everyone really enjoyed their holiday, and I can't wait to just get deep into talking ass again with you guys.
Sounds great.
Awesome.